Question 27. What's the first step? Okay, f of x plus h, I heard that, and then what?
Minus f of x over h.
Okay, so knowing the difference quotient, step 1. Step 2 is applying it. So are you okay with why this is f of x plus h? Yes? Okay. This is minus f of x, and this is all over h. Now, just like the question 28 we did a minute ago, as soon as we applied the difference quotient, we had a complex fraction, so we had to know how to simplify the complex fraction. Now we've applied the difference quotient here, and we need to know how to simplify this. Well, it's not a complex fraction, so you can't handle it the same way. It's not like question 26 where we've got some stuff to FOIL and some stuff to distribute. I mean, I guess you can distribute this 5 if you really want to, but you don't need to. So the next step you have to be ready to do. You have to know what that next step is on this question type, and that is to multiply the top and the bottom by the same thing, and that thing needs to be the conjugate of the numerator. So that middle sign needs to change from a minus to a plus. And then it looks really messy, but the next step is just multiplying fractions. Denominator times denominator. There's not much we can simplify with this. It's h times this stuff, so I wrote h times that stuff. But when you multiply your fractions and you multiply your numerators, anytime you multiply something by its conjugate, a lot of stuff is going to cancel out. Like the square root of 5x plus h minus 6 times the square root of 5x plus h minus 6 is just going to be 5x plus h minus 6. The square root of anything times itself gives you that. Just like the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is 3. Square root of 5 times square root of 5 is 5. Same idea. And with the conjugate, the outer part of FOIL is going to be a big mess, but then the inner part of FOIL is going to be the same mess, but a negative version. So positive something minus it, those two things are just going to cancel out and go to 0. And then finally the last part of FOIL, multiply the last two things. Square root of 5x minus 6 times square root of 5x minus 6 would be 5x minus 6. But the part that I'm concerned that you guys are glossing over too quickly, a positive times a negative is negative, and the way I wrote that's not correct. The way I wrote it makes it look like just the 5x is negative. The whole thing's negative. It was a negative square root of 5x minus 6 and a positive square root of 5x minus 6. So the whole thing is negative there. So in the numerator, we've got a 5x and a minus 5x, so those would add to 0. We've got a 5 times an h. We've got a minus 6, and then if we distribute this, we've got a plus 6, so those add to 0. So the whole numerator just goes to 5h. And like all difference quotient questions, the last step should be to divide out h. So I would have an answer of 5 over what the conjugate was that I used in step 1. So knowing to use the conjugate, nobody can help you with that. You have to review that enough to be ready for that if this question type's on there. But then I multiplied fractions. The top was something by its conjugate, so it got clean pretty quickly. The bottom was messy, but I got to leave it the way it was. Combine a few like terms on the top, and then the last step, times h divided by h. Cancel out. Anything more specific about 27?